standing strong and tall. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade, dairy strong legends being made. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade.
Welcome to the Bovine, where we challenge everything you think you know about dairy breeding. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a story that completely flips the script on modern Holstein breeding. Picture this. While mega operations are burning through millions trying to breed the next champion, a 75-cow farm in Ontario just bred 2 consecutive World Dairy Expo Grand Champion sires. Back-to-back years, 2024 and 2025. Today, we're sitting down with Adam Zehr from Walnutlawn Farms in Tavistock, Ontario. Adam's going to tell us how 6 skeptical heifers changed his mind about genomics, how a number 3 embryo nobody wanted became worth 180,000 doses of elite semen, and why his father Bernie's words, "Genomics is a young man's game," turned into a passing of the torch that would reshape Holstein history. This isn't just another breeding success story. This is about what happens when you combine 4 generations of breeding knowledge with validated science, when you choose quality over quantity, and when you have the guts to spend serious money on one cow that everyone thought you were crazy to buy. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's hear directly from Adam about how Walnutlawn Farms proved that you don't need thousands of cows to compete with the giants. You just need the right approach. Here's our exclusive interview with Adam Zehr.
So first of all, wanted to kind of start with, or what it was like for you to watch or be involved with the breeding of Candy Cane, who was grand champion at Expo.
Yeah, so when we started putting bulls into stud, I never really realized. Well, I always thought we need to have daughters of our bulls showing and doing well in other people's barns, but it probably never really realized how it would kind of hit you when you get a cow like that. That's like, I think we're a very small part of her breeding, and she is, in my mind, she is the Levich's cow. Like, there's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty cool that our bull is in the background there, and decisions we made a difference in that. And so then when she was grand, I had paid for the subscription, so I've been watching quite a bit of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And after that class, the way he talked about it, I kind of thought, oh, this cow might be grand. So then I was actually feeding calves, and then my oldest son Blake was working away, and I just kind of looked down from the calf barn, and he wasn't around for the longest time, and I thought, I'll bet you they're naming grand. So I went down, sure enough, and so I actually watched it online then when they had named her grand.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it was a great feeling. I think I was in the office fist pumping actually when she got named, because yeah, it's pretty cool when a daughter of one of our bulls wins it all.
Yeah, no, that's a huge accomplishment. And I think, just yesterday we put up a story with the Leviches, and that's a great story. They are.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's a great scenario, and that's two things. And I think I think they're similar to being about your age. Like, their kids are all about the same age as yours as well. So maybe relatively the same age. I call you guys younger breeders. I know you're not that young anymore, but relative to me.
I think myself as a younger breeder too, but then I am 42 now. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not new anymore.
That's what I was thinking. And I think of you like when you were like, my memories like start when you were like 5 or 6, just little. And then I'm like, wait a minute now, but if my kids are 20, that means he's, okay. And then I saw your hockey stuff online too. So I'm like, yep, we're all getting a lot older these days.
Yeah, things move on.
Yeah. And you said, now you mentioned you are the 3rd generation, and then your kids will be the 4th generation on the farm there?
No, I'm the 4th.
Oh,
I'm the 4th. And then, 5th generation. I'm the 4th. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, can you describe your operation for us then?
But so then the operation, we own 390 acres. And then we built a new we came out of a tie stall barn into a new freestall barn, 110 stall. We have two Lely A5 robots. We moved in February 2020. So we're 5 years now, and now we're like we usually milk around 75 cows now. So the barn's not near full, but we're loving it with the robots. It's been a really good transition. So, and we grow most of our own feed. We still buy and supplement and stuff too. We do a little bit of cash cropping, but the dairy side is what I like, and it's kind of like, for me, it's the crops are a necessity when we run a dairy farm, but it's the cows that I really enjoy.
And this all started with your great-great-grandfather then?
Yeah. And then it was my dad that really got into breeding, and really had a passion for it, and I fed off that, I guess. Then it's kind of how it went.
Yeah, I can remember your dad was very keen, and you're on the farm that your dad had then. You said earlier your best interest.
Yep. It's been the same farm for all those years then.
Cool. Now, you said your dad had the passion for breeding, so that started when you were young. What was kind of the key memories from when you were younger that got you started, as well as maybe your dad's accomplishments that he had done?
Well, so I saw that question, I was thinking about what I never thought of that. What's my first memories of growing up on the farm, and kind of when I kind of got a passion, and I guess I do remember vividly my first 4-H calf was Arrow Stardanella. She was an all white speckly thing, and I really enjoyed training her, and I kind of, at that age, I thought I had something really special because she's quite a calf, and keep her clean and all that. And I think it kind of, I don't know, just something neat about that, and the competition. I've always been into sports, and so it's kind of the competition of it all kind of got me excited, and I got my butt kicked with her in most years. Not every year. I had some good years, but I got my butt kicked a lot, and that's something that I look at with my own kids, that we don't buy 4-H calves for the kids if we don't have a real cracker. I think there's good value in getting their butt kicked sometimes. Mm-hmm. It definitely builds some drive, and of course it's nice to do some winning too. And then when we were in those years, so like I guess it was 1995, then we had a Raider cow, Raider Nectarine, that was nominated All Canadian as a 3-year-old, and so that was, I think, for Dad, like, he felt on top of the world with having a cow like that in the barn. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, I don't know, it got a lot of excitement in me as well. So at that time I'd have been 12, and I think it was kind of, I think there's a combination of getting your butt kicked a little bit, along with some better achievements, and winning a little bit kind of inspires you a little bit. Yep. And then there was a run there from 95 through 2000, whatever. I know Dad was really proud of us. We had animals, Walnutlawn animals, nominated All Canadian 5 years in a row there. And then Astray Apricot, our homebred cow we own with the Pasquiers, was intermediate champion at the Royal. So that was really something cool. And then, of course, when that was, I had been like 15, so that really was something else for me at that age.
And what lessons, or what things, like you say, that got you hooked, but what was, like, your dad was having a lot of success at that time. What lessons, or is there things from that you still apply to how you run the operations today?
Yeah, Dad always put an importance on cow families, and he always told me, he'd always tell me that sometimes if you have a good cow family, you might have a generation where maybe they're not your best cow or whatever. It might be a little bit more of an ordinary cow, but if it's a great family, you can still next generation hit it with a great one. And probably the biggest thing he kind of instilled in me was the power of cow families and the value in them.
Okay. And is that still a key part in when you're making your breeding decisions then?
Yeah, it's huge. And actually, like, yeah, that'd be the main thing actually for us in breeding, or deciding who we work with, like what animals we work with. And so then I know later on we're going to get in here about with Sue and stuff. Mm-hmm. But now I kind of look at it that we've taken a kind of a step further. Like Dad really had a goal to be a master breeder, and then he got 2 shields. 2 shields. That was something that he was really, really thankful for. But then now I kind of look at it, and especially with things have changed just because of IVF and the number of animals out there from the best families, that there's enough out there at reasonable enough prices that I kind of look at it now that in my mind, like if a cow's not from a brand name family, she's just a milk cow. And not saying it doesn't mean like they're not great cows. Like one of our best 2-year-olds in the barn right now, just as a barn cow, is she has 7 excellent dams. 6 generations are homebred.
Oh wow!
And that's something that I think it's pretty cool. But I always look at it as if I have to explain to a visitor who the cow family is, that they're just a milk cow. And so that for me, I'm happy to get daughters from her still. We're happy to breed from her, but she's not she's not an animal that can turn out something, or have as high an odds, I should say, of turning out something really, really, really elite. I don't think, because those, like the brand, I look at the brand name cow families are brand name for a reason. But definitely, like, that young cow's going to get sex semen, because I still want daughters from her. But just to turn out like a special bull or something really marketable. Yeah. I just think the odds are so much higher with a brand name family.
No, it's funny, and I don't mean to go this, but I go back to my memories. Remember, I'm old in this, but I always remember your dad is a very not progressive, but aggressive pedigree breeder. Like, as you said, master breeder, all Canadians, very much that way, but very much also tie stall and everything else. So, and I was doing this, and I'm like, you guys are in a very different operation than you would have grown up in. So there's quite a contrast, at least facilities wise, from what you would have grown up in into what you have now. When I was doing my homework for this, I'm like, yeah, that's quite a change. I look at, I tease, I'll call it, with Western Ontario boys, and a lot of the ones that I like, you look at the Marcuses and yourselves and ones like that, and I'm like, little kind of old school tie barns, I call it, and now you're all freestall robots and everything else. Some of you, I'm like, Jesus, things have changed a lot over the years. For a lot of you guys, when I look at that, so it is quite a contrast. But things change. Like, that's the thing. Farms change. Generations come in. Different technology. So it is the times. But for me, it's always interesting to look at when you go into that. Now, you did mention about the Sioux family. So might as well continue on there. How did you guys, like, before Sioux, before Solomon, before Sidekick, before all of this, you guys decided to invest or kind of bring in some more pedigrees, or how did all that start?
Yeah, so Dad at that time was like, even up until we bought Sioux, and that time he was kind of making the final decisions, but my parents allowed me to make some decisions as well. And so Dad had a number of show cows he had bought in partnerships with different people. And again, it was always like focusing on cow families, and then also cows that could show. And basically in our breeding, we focused heavily on type, which I still look at. I think there's people out there that I think I'm viewed sometimes as a genomic breeder, and I suppose I am, but I view very much that we breed type. Like, that's what we really breed heavily for, is because we breed for what we like. So that hasn't really changed. Maybe what we call the typey cow has changed, just as the industry has changed. Not so tall, maybe not quite as sharp, but obviously more dairy. Kind of like the whole industry has changed that way. But it was kind of that time that I was then home from school, and I was full time, and I kind of was like, Dad kind of had the dream of, like, his goals were to get a master breeder shield and then get a second one, and then he had a dream to have 5 homebred excellent cows standing in a row, and he met all those goals. And then for me, it was more that I wanted to I kind of like the idea of putting a bull in the stud. And then genomics came along, and I was really, I thought it was a joke kind of at first. Well, I thought it was a joke at first, and I like to think I have an open mind to those sort of things. I read on it a lot, and it was kind of like a hobby for me, kind of figuring out this genomics thing. And then we started genomic testing some, and we tested actually quite a bunch of, we did groups of full sisters, actually, and often just seeing how they compared to each other, the results from their phenotype. And to be honest, it was like, we were kind of astounded how accurate it seemed to be.
Okay.
And so then it kind of came to the point that I kind of got the green light that if there's a cow to invest in, like even if it's quite a bit of money, that we could do that.
So
And
then,
so then Sue was consigned to Sales Stars. Actually, She was just fresh. Like, I think she went 87 points as a yearling, or maybe she was just 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like 17 days, and basically right at that time she was consigned to Sales Stars. We saw her in the catalog, and then inquired to Dominique and Kathy Murmanot about her at Misty Springs, and they had told us then actually they were housing her at Maplewood, which is just about a 40-minute drive from here. It's not too far.
Not far.
So yeah, we went and saw her there, and then and during that conversation they had said she was consigned, but it wasn't ready yet because she was pretty fresh still, so they weren't going to consign her. And then we ended up working a deal out, bought her privately then. So that's how that came about.
Okay. And what about Sue caught your guys' attention?
The time she had a genomic parent average of 17 types, so we figured out with being scored 87 points, we saw her like she's an easy 87.2-year-old. She did go 88 later on.
Yep.
We saw that she's probably going to be number one, and if not, she's going to be close. And then also is then the family, and we still look at it that like now if I'm ever looking at an animal to buy, we don't do a lot of buying, but here and there we add. And the first thing is we look at is the family, because the pedigree is always there. That's your base for everything. Mm-hmm. And genomics are, I think they're very accurate, but there's definitely times it misses. There's sometimes formula changes, there's rollbacks, there's all those things. Mm-hmm. You always have your pedigree. So the family is the biggest thing, and then we kind of genomics is often right after that. And Sue is just kind of a cow that she cost a lot, so I felt there was kind of pressure to maybe to turn out. And I'm like, well, this was kind of my decision. I hope she doesn't flunk. And so I kind of felt pressure at that time to make it work. Fortunately, she flushed really well. That really helped. But when it really came together, as long as we could justify the dollars, like it seemed like this was a cow that had it all. She's definitely one we want to look at, and purchase and really work off of. So it was. I mean, I wouldn't say it was an easy decision because she was a lot of money, but she had enough things going for her that in that way it was pretty easy.
Yep. And I remember Sue back in the day. We had our cows at Maplewood at the same time.
Okay.
So I remember her as we went through, and I remember she was actually like, how do I say it? Lenny had a few ornery ones to work with. She wasn't ornery to work with, and then having the shower family and everything behind her, you knew that family's always flushed.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. She had a bunch of heifers. She had a bunch of daughters born too. So.
Yeah.
So you knew she could flush and make some offspring.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you got her home, and then you started flushing her right away, or what'd you guys do with her when you first got her?
Yeah, like she was pretty fresh, but then I think maybe by the time we got her home, I don't think it was that long. We got her settled, we started flushing, and then we rolled her every month. We were doing ET on her, and actually we were learning as we went, and during that time we were quite shocked at how easy, like when you have an animal that's that good, it was pretty surprising to us actually how easy the marketing was.
Yep. How
easy eggs sold, and you could name a high price, and if someone thought it was too high, there's the next one in line. And so it was pretty eye opening for us actually. And our goal we kind of aimed for is we tried when we'd flush every month. So I mean we were rolling her very often. We'd usually put 3 to 5 eggs in, and we'd try to get 2 to 3 pregnancies from a mating, and then we'd sell the rest of the eggs. And she had a lot of flushes where she'd be double digits, so we'd usually sell 5, 6 from a flush and keep the cash flow going that way while still getting pregnancies. So, and that was just we were blessed that she flushed well. That made a big difference for us.
Now, and I just don't know. Is she the first one that you put sons into AI then from under you guys, or had you done some before AI before her?
No, that was the first one. Okay. And And actually, so the very first bull that was accepted then was a Meridian Sun Synergy, and then the next one was Solomon. So she kind of hit
Oh wow!
right.
Yeah,
She hit right away, and
Rick.
in something with the family that I'm. Well, actually, I think we're going to touch on it. I know there's a question later on about competing with like the bigger farmers, but it's something that I have a lot of belief in. And so we work three families we're working heavily with now: the Laurie Sheiks, the Barbies, and then the Sioux family, which is like the Splendors, of course. And with those three families, like our best from those families, I have a lot of belief in them.
Yep.
And I trust them that we don't need 10 calves from a mating to hit one high. And it's something with like with Sue, like Solomon was one of only two doorman sons, and then Sidekick was the only Abbott son we had from Summer. Like we didn't need 10 because it was a strong cow family, and they're consistent enough. And I think it's a really special family. Like that's one of the reasons, because we don't need that many. And I think there is times in the industry now, even we see that there's cows that are regarded as great brood cows, and how do I say this to not sound negative, but sometimes they're great brood cows because they've got 100 offspring and they hit it with two. So we say, well, she's a great brood cow, but is she really? That's my question.
Yeah, because some have hundreds and hundreds of embryos and stuff, and so what percentage do they actually hit on? Yeah,
what percentage are they hitting on? And we say, well, they're great brood cow, but are they that consistent? Like, not necessarily. So something I'm very proud of with the family.
Yeah, and I said it hit pretty good for you pretty quick. And if Solomon was that early in her situation, what was it like when? What was it like for you guys when Solomon hit number one? What was that day like for you guys?
Well, so he was number one as a young bull.
Yeah,
and proven.
Yeah,
and when he came out, actually, like I said, we were learning as we went. Like I feel like we know a lot more now because we've been through it a little longer. But I remember, I do remember the conversation I had with Dad, and I told him this was the time, of course, when Atwood was like a young bull and he was getting used a lot on the show cow, like the top show cows, and there was places selling for big dollars. And I remember saying to Dad, I said, like, I think Solomon's going to be used on all the big time show cows. Like it kind of all of a sudden, like I knew his numbers were at, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, he's really high, because like we knew he was high, but we didn't know if he was a superstar when we first got the numbers. Like we were new, like we didn't know. And I remember I said that to Dad, and he was quite surprised by it. And he's like, oh, you think? He's like, well, I guess he's high. Maybe he is. And so it was pretty neat then to see that he was, and it was really neat when he hit number one confirmation, was the same round that our other doorman son, Blake, from the Barbie family, was also number one PTAT. It was the same round. So that was pretty neat. And they both, from different families, hit in two different countries right at the same time. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was different then with Sidekick, because then when we got Sidekick's genomics, this is someone else I'm proud of with the family. So we got his first genomics, and he was 22 for type. And not long ago here, I was actually kind of figuring out where he'd be without rollbacks, and he'd be over 20 still if you take rollbacks out. So to me, that demonstrates that of course he's dropped over time, like no doubt, but he's been very consistent from what his initial genomics were. And at the time we got the genomics, he went up for every trait except milk, which makes sense. We know now they're not the milkiest.
Yeah.
To me, genomics nailed him exactly what he is. And when we got, so we've been through it with Solomon a little bit. So when we got the numbers on Sidekick, we definitely understood more that we had a superstar there right from the get go. And he was still on milk. We got numbers, and we knew he was a superstar. So it was quite different than Solomon.
Yeah, and then he was a McCutcheon. Sorry, the dam's out of McCutcheon.
Summer.
Out of Summer. Yeah. And now, at the time of Sidekick being bred and stuff, you guys still owned her by yourselves, did you not? At that point, Dave and those guys didn't come in till later.
Yeah, we sold her. Like we never owned part of her with them.
Yeah, they
So that
sold
was,
or short, but I meant, yeah.
so when we sold, I have to remember here in my head how that was exactly. But when we sold summer, Sidekick was I think in stud, like not quite released
Oh,
yet,
it was that
if
early.
I
Okay.
remember correctly. Yes.
Okay. I didn't, I
Yeah.
was trying to go through the
Yeah.
timelines.
So I mean, in they were brought in, of course, in the genomic era, and it was their genomics and the pedigree that got them accepted to stud. But it is interesting to know, I think, too, that they weren't the result of flushes on virgin heifers either. They're damned for milk cows when those flushes happen. So
Okay.
that's something I keep in mind too. I don't like the true transmitters. I don't like to move on too fast, even maybe if their numbers aren't as high as their daughters. We still work them hard because we know that they transmit regardless if their numbers maybe aren't quite as high as the newest generation. We know that, like right now, I look at our alligator Briar cow from the Barbie family, and she's that cow. She's now third calf. She's 92 points, but she doesn't flush the best, so we have to calve her here and there. Otherwise, we'd probably have her as a permanent flush cow and flush as often as we could. So
Okay. Yeah. Now, how old was Summer when you guys sold her? Was she just a 2-year-old when Dave and those guys bought her?
no, she was third calver.
Third calver. Oh, she was that.
We sold her in like end of August, and she had been fresh, I think, since May or June. With her second calf, yeah, she was 3-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just remember, and then David sold her again from there. But yeah, trying to go through the history in my own head. And remember her at summer show. Yeah, and I remember at summer show. It's like here, one of the high index cows that also is competing with the best show cows.
Yeah,
and that's quite an achievement. So in there, for sure. Sorry, I just was thinking about Dave for a second there. Anyways, and then so Sidekick actually was done quite well. Did you guys use them a lot yourself as well, or is it a little tricky because you had so much of the bloodline in your farm?
Yeah, we've used them, and actually, I'm still using them, to be honest.
Yeah.
So another thing, Dad, kind of when we got into the bulls and we started putting some of these bulls instead, Dad always warned me, maybe a little different view than some people, because I've heard it said that you always need to look if a breeder uses their own bulls to know if you should use them or not.
Yeah.
And Dad always really cautioned me against using our own bulls, and that we can use them, but it's pretty easy when you have a homebred bull to get what I would call homeritis, and you fall in love with them a little too much. And so to be careful, like Dad always said to me that he believed it's tough to move your herd ahead if you use your own bulls too heavily, because I think partly you get a little bit of a bias towards them because you bred them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't really ever use any of our bulls heavy. Like I always have some semen in the tank of our own bulls here and there, but I never go heavy. So Solomon and Sidekick, I've used both. Never went super heavy with them, but Sidekick now we're still using them a little bit. I got some Sexton conventional doses that when the time comes I need a 4 udder improvement, he's kind of the guy to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we know so well where to use them, and we actually got a few excellent Sidekicks now, and it's definitely fun still to use them sometimes.
And it's neat when you look at Sidekicks, because was going through it, especially with her winning Grand. They've seemed to mature better than most other bulls of his generation. Like there were some others that maybe had fancier or at least more show-winning 2-year-olds, but as they've hit the 3 and 4 lactation cows, they've really come on as elite level, especially in the show ring cows. So it's neat that they've matured that way much more.
Yeah, and my thought on that, whether it's accurate or not, I can't say, but my thinking is it's because I think he leaves like a really balanced frame.
Yeah.
And so maybe they're not extreme to win as 2-year-olds, but as they age, it's those cows that age so well, and they do so well then later on. So yeah, and that's a trait that's pretty. I'm thankful our name's tied onto a bull that can do that sort of thing.
No, it's really cool, and that's it's in with Lovich's as well. They comment that if anything, Candy Cane was maybe perceived to be a little immature as a heifer,
Oh, yeah.
and a fresh,
Okay, yeah.
not immature, but not an extreme. And then she just kept developing and developing. And there's been about 5 or 6 of those ones over this past year or two that have really come on, that maybe weren't headliners as 2-year-olds, but they've really come on nicely. And they've matured in there. And so that's kind of neat because you think about it, because you got Summer, who's done quite well at Madison herself, maybe not to grand champion stage, but did quite well. And then now her son is carrying on the legacy. What does that mean for you guys to kind of, you said about, you kind of have a bit on both sides of the female and the male side. Probably quite an achievement for you guys.
Yeah, that's something that, like, I look at, like Summer, because there is very few cows that are crossover cows that are, Summer, I mean, we did a McCutcheon mating on Sue. I mean, if we're all honest, I don't think we thought we were going to turn out a big-time show cow. It wasn't made for that reason. So it's pretty neat to have a cow that's been able to do that. And I look at then from our Breyer family, of course, goes back to Barbie now.
Barbie.
Lambda Beyonce is another one that's done that. And so to have 2 cows that have been able to compete at Madison and Royal, and also be cows that can put bulls and stud just on genetic merit, and not, they're putting bulls and stud, of course, because the family and all that, and they got a dam that can show and everything too. But they're not putting bull and stud just because the dam to show cows. Basically, what I'm saying. Yeah. So to have 2 cows like that is quite satisfying as well. Yeah.
No, and it's neat. And you talked about like, certain cows will be flushed hundreds of times, so they did it with potency. And then I think about the size and scale of your operation, and you guys aren't 300 head, 500 head, or 1,000 head. I believe you're about 60 to 70 head you're milking just now?
Usually around 75 now. Yeah, we're slowly expanding here in the new barn.
Yeah.
Of course, it's cold. It's not fast, but
nope. With
that, what I try to really do is flush. Like, we'll flush heifers with the genomic era if you want to compete in the genomic game. I suppose you got to do some, but we don't flush heifers heavily. Yeah. And especially if there's a heifer that's maybe worth, I think, this heifer's good enough. She looks the part. She's got good enough numbers. We should be flushing her. If there's not a bull that really matches super well with her, I'll usually, quite often, I won't flush. Like, I only have so many. Like, I can really only do so many flushes to make so many eggs.
Yep.
Often on one like that, we won't flush, and I'll breed young and get them calved in. And I look at it, if we breed young, calve them in, see what we got for sure.
Yep.
We don't give that much time, if as long as we do calve them in young, and we can work with them as 2-year-olds then, if that's the case. Because I don't want to be missing too many times on virgin heifer flushes and tying up recips that we don't have a lot of, unless I'm quite convinced. You have to be careful with that.
Yeah. And then you've had a lot of success like yourselves, but it also probably means a lot to see other people's have success with the genetics you guys have developed. So that's cool as well.
Yeah, for sure it is. And actually, like, I was thinking about this with Sidekick, and of course since Candy Cane won Madison, but I look even like what I consider like across the world. Over in UK, there's like the Meg Pandora cow.
Pandora.
Won some big cows there, or big shows, and then Evening Sidekick Jennifer is another one. And they're 2 cows I've never seen, but like look just incredible in the pictures, and so it's pretty neat to think that one of our bulls is doing, dominating on the other side of the world. Pretty neat.
I would say I've seen Pandora several times.
Oh, you have seen her? Okay. Yeah.
And easily a cow that could compete in North America. There's a reason.
Looks that way. Yeah, really impressive.
Yeah, there's a reason Blonde didn't bought in, and I tease it. Probably isn't because they're going to make a buttload out of her. They just appreciated the cow.
Yeah.
That much, that she was that exceptional. And yeah, I would say there's 2 or 3 in Europe at most times, maybe 1 or 2 at times, that would compete over here, but she's easily one that would...
She looks like
run into everyone here. She's special.
There's a look too that, like, she could, again, that could just might not be even at her peak yet.
No, she'll keep developing. Yep. No, she will. That's what I mean. So you look at the genetics, and that's, I mean, it's with technology these days. It's amazing how, like, you think, okay, I'm here in Western Ontario and whatever, but the genetics are like around the world, and so
Yeah,
that kind of, I guess, is humbling at times as well, too. I guess that,
yeah, for
you know,
sure. I mean, for sure it is. Yeah, yeah,
in that regards. Uh, Now you guys have had a lot of achievements over the years, and as we talk about, uh, you know, genetics going around the world. What do you think your father would say now, looking at the success and what's happened? What do you think he'd say to you?
yeah. I've thought of that often because there's a lot of times I like to have conversations with him. I like to show him the new barn
Yeah.
and obviously like I farmed with him and are really close. I'd like to ask him a lot of questions and advice as well. But I think he'd be, I think he'd kind of be a little bit in awe and he'd probably say, "Wow, that's cool." It's probably like, and he would say, "Wow, that's cool," in like a way that, yeah, a little bit in awe. I think he would. He'd be really proud of it. I know that for sure.
Yeah, it's neat. Your dad, at least in my interactions, never was overly talkative, but his passion and his desire were
Yeah,
like
he he loved Holstein breeding
yeah.
and like I look back when we had Raider Nectarine, like when she was nominated, she was in the barn. He looked after her and got her ready and all that, and he loved it. Like just had so much. He was so proud of her. And then also just a few years later, we sold half of Apricot to the Pasquiers, but he'd just beam every time he'd see her. He loved it. He loved Holstein breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I look back and like, yeah, I guess that's where I got it from. I got that same passion as he did. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. And then you look to today, and you have 2 kids, 3 kids,
3, yeah,
3 kids. They get the passion. Are they wanting to get into the business, or where are they at and all that?
Yeah, so my oldest is 17.
Yep.
And he'll be done grade 12, and actually he's me full time farming with me next June, right when he's in high school. So
Okay.
he's really, he loves it. Like I think he loves it as much as I do, and he doesn't like school either. So he's really looking forward to being home full time.
Now,
And so I'm looking forward to having him home.
okay.
And then my other 2, at this point, they don't seem to be as into it. Like my youngest son, Easton, he's 12. He loves to build things. Like he spends more time in the shop than he does the barn.
Yeah.
And my daughter Regan, she helps me 3 nights a week in the barn. It's not that she necessarily wants to. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. Now, which one's the junior hockey player? That'd be the oldest one, would it not?
Yeah, he's still minor hockey. He's with the junior Braves, but
Junior
it's
Braves, yeah.
team.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, that's my oldest. Yeah,
That's the oldest. So
yeah. I've always had a real passion for hockey. Is what, like growing up, Mom and Dad used to always say the only thing Adam cares about, and he needs to expand a little bit, but all he cares about is hockey and cows. And it's kind of still what occupies me quite a bit.
So big hockey fan, are you a Leafs fan?
Yeah,
Or?
huge Leafs fan. That's something that it's around here. Like you're not really allowed to be anything else other than a Leafs fan. We're huge Leafs fans. Like the Jays run here is kind of exciting for us, but I'm like, I watch it. I'm like, why can't the Leafs do this?
Yeah.
Baseball's kind of a secondary thing. Like it's all about the Leafs here. Actually, that was a funny story. When Blake was young, like he was a Sharks fan. He'd say when he was like 4 and 5, because it was only because a Shark was cooler than a Leaf.
Yeah.
And we got given to, like, this drove my dad nuts because he was a huge Leaf fan too.
Yeah.
And we got given Leaf tickets. We were talking about who will go. The farm got them given.
Yeah.
And then I was saying, well, I can chore if you and Mom want to go. And he goes, you know what? He goes, this drives me crazy. You need to go and take Blake and turn him into a Leaf fan.
Oh wow!
so he went. He was 5, and he went to the Leafs and Flyers game with me. And ever since then, he's been a Leaf fan. So it worked.
That's the thing. Mission accomplished. So there you go.
Yeah, it worked.
Jeez. So you got the kids coming on. So what is next? Like you've got the one coming home. You said. What is the next plans for Walnutlawn then?
I would say there's not. It's honestly a little bit status quo. We're buying quota to expand, but of course that's like very slow. Like I think our management and genetics can almost keep up as fast as we're buying quota. And I don't ever intend to get big, and like we built the barn for 110 cows, 2 robots, and I don't want to be bigger than that. That would be up to the kids if they want to go more than that. Like I don't, and obviously I don't know for sure how many will want to farm, but it looks now like they'll probably just be Blake.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I would say it's kind of just keep on trying to keep expanding our families and breeding from our best families, and just kind of continue doing what we're doing. I don't think there's a lot of change. We do, like when I look back, like I do see as in breeding, I think things are changing. What the industry wants is changing all the time. And I guess I've been breeding cows long enough, I can see that. I'm sure it's been like this forever.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, when you're young, you haven't seen as many changes. And when I look back and think of the way what our goals are and the way we perceive the best type cow to be, changes, and I assume that will keep changing. And aside from that, I don't know. Like as far as management goes, some things that I see changing in for the future. I sometimes refer to what I call a cow of the future, and for me, that's a cow that's going to milk like 700-day lactations.
Yeah.
I think I already see it now with I guess quite a few of my views have changed just in the last 5 years, because going from a freestall or tie stall to freestall, there's a lot of change, and then that added, we're more precise in our feeding than we used to be. We have better environment for the cows than we used to be. Everything's just management is up because of the technology and the environment that the housing is given. So I see very much that the 305-day lactation we've always traditionally talked about, like to me now that's really old school, and we should be extending our lactations much longer. And I have a goal. Of course, I want to continue to breed some like influential bulls and females if we can as well. I'd like to hopefully be able to continue doing that, but as far as like for the herd, I have a goal of at 20,000 kg lactation average, and like we can't be doing that right now, but I think in the future it's doable with long lactations. And I've had people ask me like, how many days do you like? What are you talking about? What if it takes a lot of days? And for me, with the robots and the cows, if the cows that are persistent and the cows that go to the robot a lot, and they'll continue going to the robot when they're 300 and 400 days in milk, I don't really know that it matters how long the lactation is, because I think the sky's the limit for what the cows can do, and I think we can get there with long lactations and lengthen them out and get a lot higher volume than we have traditionally.
And with the robots, you'll have all the data on their milk flow and how much milk they're given. So, like, you know if they're still pumping out.
You have a lot of data, and I mean the cows that we obviously have some cows that aren't bred as much milk as others, but the cows that have a lot of milk bred into them and are keen to go to the robot and still visit 3+ times a day when they're 300 and 400 days in milk, they don't really slow down. Like they keep milking. And so we've already lengthened our lactations, especially on our best cows. We're lengthening them out, and like a bull like Delta, I'm convinced pretty much wouldn't say all of them, but almost all of our old Delta daughters, they can milk 2-year lactations now already.
Yeah.
And so I see more of that coming in the future.
Well, it's interesting and I work at different herds, commercial pedigree, the whole likes, but especially when you get into the robots, a lot of them just kind of, if you're really optimizing for profitability, not from genetics, but just from the milk check, it's the how many liters or how much milk per minute type thing.
Yeah.
And that's not always tied to young cows, old cows, whatever. I know guys that use that as their breeder dry off metric. It doesn't matter what stage they're at. If they're still giving above X amount of liters per amount of whatever time they want to use, they are like, I will keep them milking or I'll keep them going. I'm not worried about it. It's not I have to have them bred back by X day. Because if a cow's milking hard enough and going hard enough, I just want to get as much milk per hour as I can get type thing. That doesn't mean that they all have to be first fresh cows, or sometimes that means I have more, as you say, maybe older cows who are giving a lot of milk versus a bunch of young cows who aren't sometimes like, and that's where they use that metric versus the
Yeah.
others.
Yeah, I mean, we're not with our barn being not full to our quota.
Yeah.
Where our quota is at, like we're not really restricted to that kind of metric because the robots aren't near full. We'd actually be doing quite poorly on robot efficiency and that because we're not milking. We don't have them full. But yeah, I think there's a lot of changes coming in that. Like we were in the robot barn here not that long, and I had a 2-year-old, and she had to be dried off, and she was milking 40 kgs still.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I look at it and like, well, most cows at 300 days of milk, they're probably at their highest component percentage.
Yeah.
She's milking 40, and like to me, it's bad management if I'm drying a cow off that's at 40 kgs of milk.
Yeah.
And I might as well just let her roll. And so, of course, there's the tricky part is there's some cows you get them pregnant, you'll leave them a little longer, and you get them pregnant, and all of a sudden they decide they don't have to go to robot as often, they slow down in milk. You still get that, so that has to all be balanced along the way. But I think that's kind of where we're headed in the future.
Now, you mentioned earlier about your dad, wanted to be a master breeder, then he ended up being a 2-time master breeder, wanted to have all Canadian nominations and stuff. Do you have goals that way? Do you still, you've had a lot of success as a group, but do you set goals still that way? Is that still in your goal setting when you think about it?
Yeah, I still have things I want to achieve. And, well, one of them is that, like, when I decided, of course, like I said, we've always been type breeders, and we decided we want to put a bull in the stud. I mean, at that time I was like, I want to breed a bull that dominates the show ring, and it's still a goal of mine to have premier sire at Madison or Royal. And we've never got that, and it was pretty cool when Sidekick and Solomon were second, third at Madison a few years back. But I still haven't met that goal, and I still want to get that one. and there's some other ones like as I said with the herd. I want to get a 20,000 lactation average. Is another goal I'd like to meet. I'd also just for the fun of it. Like when I was younger, I've always loved the shows. When I was younger, I always wanted to be I always thought that'd be cool if you're leading the grand champion at the Royal. Yeah. And now I don't have that same desire to show, but I love seeing. I don't have the desire, and I don't have the know-how to get the cows at the level the best guys do.
Yep.
So I look at it that I'm so much better off to sell the best cows and let the experts do what the experts do, and not try to compete with them because I can't do it as well as they do.
Yeah. And
but I really think it'd be neat to walk into Madison or Royal sometime with the breeders herd. I think it'd be pretty neat.
That'd be.
And I think I'd be satisfied if we were last. If we could just have 3 that competed in the same year, that'd be quite a achievement, I think. And like the herds that bring out breeders herds at those national shows like every year I have a lot of respect for them. That's impressive. When I think about, because that's one thing that maybe it'll change in the future. Blake, we used to show more at like our county show and stuff. Since we've been in the freestyle, we've only shown heifers.
Yeah.
Partly because I'm not quite sure how to. Like I can get them ready for a county show. I can't compete with the best. That's why I figure the best, our best cows, if I can sell them, I sell them to the guys that can get them ready. But Blake, he gets a little more of an itch to take some cows out to the county show and whatnot. And I guess I'm not against it because I'm like, but I do have to remind him it's a lot of work, and we can't compete with the best because we don't have the know-how to compete with the very best. And I kind of really like what we're doing now with the genomic breeding. I enjoy it, and I feel like the show herds and exhibitors, they just must have to deal with a lot of stress, because I look back and think when we were showing a little more, and like your best cow puts a little bit of weight on, or she's not pregnant right when she needs to be, it's a big deal. Where now I just feel it's just a lot less stress.
Yeah. Well,
if my best cow puts a little weight on, so what? It doesn't hurt nothing. I like when they carry some condition, like that sort of thing. It makes it a little more forgiving.
I can remember. I used to call it the Woodstock International Show, because that show was always the. It seemed like everyone was going gung ho with Martin and a bunch of John Martin and those guys.
I still refer to it as the one. It's the ONE, the Oxford National Exhibition.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, so it's one of the steamier. I was gonna say it's one of the steamier county shows. That's what I'm like. I'm like, well, I don't know if your county show is even the easiest of all the county shows, buddy. 'Cause in my
Yeah,
memories, we always called
it's a
it
pretty strong
the
county show,
international.
but
Yeah.
it still is a county show.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm just teasing that. There's a lot of guys that went pretty hardcore
Yeah,
in the region there for sure. So
for sure.
I was always a chuckle about that show. What would you say to, like, you got your young son coming up, or you're some of the young breeders kind of getting going? What advice would you give them? What kind of worked for you guys that you think that they should think through? Or what do you tell your son when he's coming into it?
Like I so firmly believe in the power of cow families.
Yeah.
Is one thing that your odds are just like in breeding. Nothing's ever. I look at it. Nothing's ever certain. Nothing's ever certain in breeding. You can do a cross that you're convinced is going to work. We use all the data we have, but still, God puts the DNA together, and He decides how the genes fall. So we don't know how it's going to go, but you can stack the odds so highly, much more highly in your favor with really strong families. And so in my opinion, I would, if I was going to start trying to really breed like elite genomics or whatever, I would kind of target what I want to. What's my goal? Like what am I aiming for? Like if you're aiming to breed an all Canadian, you're probably going to focus a little bit different than on what you're going to put a bull into stud. But the really special families to me have it all. Like they have the production, they have reproduction, they flush, they got the deep pedigree. And it's not like I look at that our three families we're really working with the most are, like I think I said earlier, the Laurie Sheik, like goes back to the Laurie Sheik family, goes back to Barbie, goes back to Splendor and like Shower. Like those families have been around and have been famous families for longer than I've been around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, they're still hot. And so when you get an elite one from those families, so I guess what I'm kind of trying to say is if you really want to be in the elite side of it, you can try to build your own family into that. But I think you might be ready to retire by the time you get there more times than not.
Mm-hmm.
So you're better off to make an investment on something that you think you can breed from. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I would say is honesty and integrity. I look at it that those times, like we score everything. This last round, we scored a couple 2-year-olds that I'd rather maybe didn't have scores on them. Mm-hmm. But I want our bulls and even our females, but especially because of course the bulls are being marketed to people more. I want the numbers to be accurate and I want people to trust them. So to me, I'll put the reliability in there. If a cow's standing in the barn, like maybe I've sold her, but if she's still in the barn and she's from one of our best cows and and I know she's not going to be one of our top scoring 2-year-olds or whatever, we score her no matter what. Mm-hmm. And being honest with people and being real with people. Obviously we hope every female is born and every bull that goes to stud is going to be the next superstar, but we also know that they're not going to be, but hopefully we can hit with a few, as many as possible, and be honest with people. Don't tell them everything's great. And I usually when we have a bull release, I try to do a Facebook post on the bull. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, like if where I see the bull, and I, like for instance, we have a bull, Love Story, that's just released, and I think he's a really tremendous bull. Mm-hmm. And we are using him some in our own herd. I don't personally think he's likely going to be a show bull, though. So I'll say that so people will use that bull for what they're aiming for. If they're going to use him, in my opinion, they're going to use him trying to breed an all-Canadian March calf, and he doesn't do it, they're going to be disappointed. So I'm better off to say this is where I think he is. Mm-hmm. Of course, I don't know for sure, but where I think he is, and then hopefully more people are satisfied with what they get because they deliver what they're hoping for. Okay,
and so that connects to one of my other questions is years from now, when things are all said and done, or when people see the name Walnutlawn or think about Walnutlawn, how would you like them to perceive, or what would you like them to think about when they think about the name Walnutlawn and the prefix and what you guys have done?
Yeah, I hope they think again. I hope that they see that we strive for integrity and honesty as an operation, and then also that our genetics delivered. I hope what they're looking for and delivered cows that cows that farmers like is basically what I hope they deliver, and that are reliable. And yeah, hopefully there's just some steadiness there, I guess I should say, to the name and the genetics that our bulls and the females possess.
Okay.
Now,
Now,
yeah, I hope they see reliability there in it as well.
now you've been through a lot. You've had a lot of accomplishments, but you've also been through a lot. So when you're sitting in the barn and it's just you standing in the barn and everything's quiet and you're looking at the cows, what do you like to think about? What goes through your mind when you're just sitting there looking at what you've achieved, but also where you're at?
I read this question, and my first thought was it all depends on how the day goes. But really, to be honest, but as I read it, I thought if I'm standing in the barn more often than not, I think about to turn the lights off. I hope you guys don't do something stupid tonight while I'm gone. Honestly, that's what's most common.
No, I get it.
That's the most common one, but no, what I really, if I think about like our breeding, and I think about like what some of the sidekicks and Solomon daughters have done, yeah, I'm really thankful. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Really thankful that breeders have given our bulls a chance, and that that God's given me an opportunity to farm and breed cows, which is something like I look at the breeding side of what we do as definitely a business, but also it's like a hobby, and so it's pretty neat that I've been able to have a business out of what I also consider a hobby. So yeah, I'm thankful, and yeah, for that people have given our bulls an opportunity, and that they've also delivered, and not just that the bulls have, not just that it's an accomplishment to get the bull to stud, but it's also been that a few of our bulls have really made a real impact, and it's really satisfying. And I guess it kind of ties into that as well. So last year, I went to Madison for the first time in a few years, and then of course Footloose was the first. Solomon's daughter, it's world champion, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and that was pretty neat to think that. When I really think about it, that wow, like I really think about it, it hits me a little bit that one of our bulls bred a world champion. Like that's kind of hard to believe, to be honest.
Yeah.
And last year when she was in the Ducat string, and I'd never actually seen her other than pictures till last year.
Mm-hmm.
And to stand there and look at that cow, think she's world champion, and then on her name card to see Walnutlawn Solomon and see our prefix there was really rewarding. It was really cool.
Wow, what an incredible journey from those 6 Goldwyn sisters to consecutive Madison championships. The Walnutlawn story isn't just about breeding great cattle. It's about proving that in 2025, with genomics validated and cow families proven, the advantage has shifted back to those who really pay attention. To every cow, every mating, every embryo. Adam Zehr and his 75 cows just showed the entire Holstein world that it's not about the size of your operation. It's about the intelligence of your approach. If you want to read the full feature article with all the details, photos, and Adam's complete breeding strategy, head over to thebullvine.com. And if you're inspired by what you heard today, share this episode with another breeder who needs to hear that David can still beat Goliath. I'm your host at the Bullvine, reminding you that sometimes the best genetics come from the most unexpected places, like a number 3 embryo from a 75 cow farm in Ontario. Until next time, keep challenging the status quo.